Hi, my name's David Cole and I'm Technical Director of Samfield Penstock Solutions, and I'm going to talk to you today about Environmental Management Systems, EMS. So an EMS is an Environmental Management System. What it is, it's a system that you have in place to control a major event, i.e. a major fire or major pollution event at your site. So an EMS, Environmental Management System, is something that you should have set aside, and you've worked out that if you had a major event, normally a fire for instance, and you've got the potential of causing a pollution incident, that you've put in place control measures and you've understood what that risk is, and you've made a design to give you a management system that allows you to control that event. So clearly environmental, it's looking at the environmental impact. Management, it's how you're going to manage it, and the system is the design you have in place that's actually going to control that so you don't have a pollution incident. We as a company would be looking at designing a model and looking at the risk, but what most companies do is they carry out their own risk assessment. They look at how where the risk elements are. So where is it that something's going to leave the site? What is the potential impact? Is it going to get into a stream, a brook, or into the ocean? And how are they going to control it? And what are the impacts of an event happening? Well, that's quite a difficult one to answer without upsetting too many people. But what we see a lot is that people have put in place an environmental management system, which is purely a tick box exercise. So it's purely an exercise saying, okay, we have a device there that we can block the drains. We have a spill kit there that we can put around to clear up the spillage. And not a lot more, because what you're not looking at is what would an event actually look like? So how big, how much would that event be? What would happen if that event happened at the same time it was raining? What happened if that event happened at 3 a.m. on a cold, frosty morning? Could the environment management system they have actually work? So really, for an effective environmental management system, you must, first of all, fundamentally, you must understand what that risk is and what is the problem and what does it look like. Now, for us, that is part where we do our spill modelling, because what we're looking at is to assess what actually is the problem. So we're looking at how big, how much chemicals are there on the site, what is the actual potential, when could this incident happen, because it could happen at any time, so could it be controlled? And what does it look like when we actually implement perhaps some drain closure devices? So we've actually got a 3 a.m. event where we've got a major fire, we've got a 1 in 10 year rainstorm event. What does it actually look like? Will the system that we're actually going to manage and put in place, does it actually work? So that's our process really, because without that, you're doing an assumption-based technique and you don't really know actually what you're doing. Well, more and more now, the Environment Agency is looking at how it can regulate pollution incidents. There's lots of changes taking place, whereas really a pollution event is a crime. So a business itself doesn't want to have a pollution event. They want to keep it in. They know that some disasters can happen, factory fires can happen, businesses can have major spills, but no business actually wants a pollution event. So what you've got here is that the important thing is if you understand what that impact can be at the beginning, so you actually can put it into your design characteristics, you've got control of it. If you leave it until you've had an event and then you've obviously lost control, then what you end up then is you've got problems with the regulator, because the regulator will be coming back asking you, why didn't this work? If you've just purely gone, well, we've got a system in place, which is the security guard rings up the maintenance and the maintenance come down and respond to the pollution incident, that's okay as long as it's relatively small and under control. But if that was, say, some catastrophic event where the security guard has rung the fire brigade have turned up, they're evacuating everybody out of your business, and there is no time, and there certainly isn't anybody on the site who's there going to go and put the spill mats over the drain covers and put down a few sandbags around the drains where it leads out into the local river. If you don't have time of that, it's not going to work. So one of the things that happens if you do have a pollution event is you've got to look at what you had in place and what you'd put in place to actually work. Now, you could say that if you've got an environmental management system in place, which is there in front of the regulator and in front of everybody who's assessing the disaster, the question is, well, if you've got a system in place, why did it fall over? What it's going to do is it's going to highlight areas where we have a system, we've got some equipment. When was it last checked? When was it last inspected? who on site was qualified to actually operate that equipment. So what you're actually directing everybody to is certain specific questions. So if you have particularly a manually operated valve that has to be lowered at a specific time in an incident, if that happened at a particular time at night when no maintenance, nobody was on site, perhaps just a security guard, or maybe there's nobody there at all at night, who could operate that environmental management system? Nobody. So what you've really done is you've shown that actually that is one area that there was a big gap, there was a big hole, and it needs to be covered. And that's why you need to look at, when you implement a management system, that realistically it actually works for you. It doesn't mean you have to spend a huge amount of money. It means that you have to be honest and you have to cover your risk and then design a system that actually meets what you need as a business. So anybody wanting to look at an environmental management system, we'd urge them to follow our 6-point checklist. It's to understand regulation, understand how that regulation works for your particular site. Carry out a risk assessment and understand exactly what you need to do. Design your system and how you're going to implement it. Implement your design. Measure, maintain and document the system that you've got in place, and don't just stick with the original design. Be prepared to move it along and advance as regulation changes. If you've got any questions, please do drop me a line. You can contact me on www.penstocksolutions.co.uk.